Uni in 1859, British astronomer Richard Carrington was observing sunspots on the sun when he noticed a sudden flash of bright light lasting about 5 minutes. This event turned out to be the most intense solar storm recorded, now known as the Carrington event. During this storm, the sun released a massive burst of plasma towards Earth, causing widespread disruption. Gold miners in the Rocky Mountains were awakened in the middle of the night, thinking the sun had risen because of the intense aurora. Telegraph systems around the world were operating without electricity. Powered by the enormous current generated by the event, messages were transmitted from New York to Pittsburgh without any electrical input. What's particularly alarming is that such events are not rare. The aurora from this solar storm was visible across the globe, and even though auroras are typically seen in places like Iceland or Finland, this event was so extreme that people in Australia also witnessed it. A local newspaper from that region on September 7, 1859, described the spectacular sight of the southern aurora, visible for 3 consecutive nights, lighting up the sky with a beautiful red hue. In 2012, a solar superstorm of similar magnitude narrowly missed Earth by just 12 days. These solar events follow a cycle, with the sun's magnetic field flipping every 11 years, causing increased solar activity. We are currently approaching the next solar maximum. These blackouts would occur because the solar event would damage the high-voltage transformers that are critical to the power grid. These transformers are extremely difficult to replace. The event would also have severe consequences for activities in space. Satellites, rockets, and telescopes would be severely affected, especially if the storm hit while people were on the planned moon base. The radiation from such a storm is hazardous to human health. Satellites in high Earth orbit are particularly vulnerable, as they are bombarded with high-energy particles, which can cause serious damage. Many of these satellites are responsible for vital communications and GPS services. What's even more frightening is that the Carrington event, the largest solar storm recorded in history, is actually quite small compared to some older solar events. Scientists have been studying tree rings to measure carbon-14 levels, which spike during major solar flares. They found evidence of massive events in the years 774 and 994, suggesting solar storms many times larger than the Carrington event. These ancient flares may have been 10 or even 100 times more powerful. The sun operates in cycles, with solar activity peaking every 11 years. We are now entering the most dangerous phase of the solar cycle, with the peak expected around 2025. So, what can we do to protect ourselves? It starts with detection. Satellites like the SOHO spacecraft constantly monitor the sun for coronal mass ejections that might be directed at Earth. When ACME is detected, we can calculate its arrival time, typically giving us a 12 to 48-hour warning. This precious time allows us to take action. Governments must issue warnings, and energy grids should be shut down and disconnected to protect them. Satellites should be placed in safety mode to minimize damage. If we act quickly, we can restore the power grid, begin the recovery process,